Hi guys, and welcome back to part 2 of Aryiel's story. First of all, just want to say massive thank you for joining us again and following Aryiel's story. It is super exciting and juicy. In part 2, we are going to explore pansexuality with Aryiel and what that means to her, and her experimenting with polyamorous relationships and some of the biggest lessons that Aryiel has learned throughout her life. So you don't wanna miss it, you don't wanna miss it. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment, and hit that bell notification so you know every single time we upload a new video. And I'm gonna leave it there. I'm just going to leave it there and let's dive right in. Let's talk about pansexuality and what that means to you.
Yeah, so I've come to a point in my life a handful of years ago where I've always been super interested actually in going online and watching YouTube videos of people who are like transgender or people who are coming out or like people who identify as pan. I watched so many. Yeah. One day I discovered this YouTube video from this chick. She's like, pansexual, what are pans? Like, what are pansexual people? And then described it as people who are just attracted to people and to beings, and that the body doesn't really matter so much. It's not about whether you have what your genitals are, like your gender expression, like it could be anything, but we're just attracted to people. And I was like, that's me, I identify with that. That made a lot of sense. And so finally I was like, oh, I landed on the queer spectrum. I found my place on it. When I was trying to like explore bisexuality, I was like, well, one's got to be the chick and one's got to be the dude. And I was like, I guess I have to embody like the dude in order to like be romantic or intimate with girls, and it never really quite sat right on my body. So it took a long time for me to realize and reconcile with the fact that as a female and very femme identifying woman, that I could be attracted to other femme identifying women, and that it could be femininity plus femininity. I didn't want to have to like pretend to be the guy, and I wanted to eventually I'm like, that's just old dichotomies, what 100%. We think people have to be, and the fact that we're trained to associate sexuality with gender, but they're not mutually exclusive. Yeah. Like my trans ex-partner identified as a trans woman, and before she transitioned identified as bi, and after she transitioned still identified as bi, and I think still was preferential to relationships with girls. Being with her opened my eyes so much to just the spectrums of sexuality and gender, and if it's hard enough to be born into a body, that like most people could never ever begin to understand how difficult it is to feel. I was like slut shamed for being an attractive woman. Imagine being rewarded for being like beautiful man, like actor, like super, everyone's like, wow, you're so hetero, you're so masculine, you're so attractive. And then to have all these things telling you you're so good, you were so good as this thing, but deep in your body to not connect with it and not identify with it, and deeply admitted to me at points in time that they felt resentment towards me in a relationship because I was being treated and talked to and honored as a woman. And that was so hard to hear, and it just gave me so much perspective and respect and love for anyone who's trans identifying.
I agree. I want to jump back to your point on you realizing that you don't have to fit in a box, and I think it's quite beautiful with this day and age and the amount of education there is out there, and the amount of people that are completely just expressing themselves unapologetically and allowing themselves the space to just be who they want to be, dress the way they want to dress, act the way they want to dress, and not continue to label themselves within a certain box of what society wants us to be, you know. And I think that is so powerful and beautiful and freeing for you too, to just like align yourself with pansexuality and just have that freedom to be the individual that you are, you know?
and to also finally come to a point in my sexuality where I own my sexuality and I own my sensuality, and it belongs to me, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore. But it was really, really hard being shamed so young by your primary caregivers. I feel like who I am as a person, I think that people see me like as a very sexual and sensually expressive person.
Uh-huh.
But I think that there's nothing wrong
No,
with that.
not at all.
And just because someone
Yeah.
expresses themselves sexually doesn't even mean that they're sleeping around. Like, I'm not. Like, that's never been who I am or what I'm about, but
It's just your energy.
it's just my energy.
Yeah.
And I had to apologize for it so long. I was bullied in high school for it. My mom bullied me. Like, it's literally just the way I move and walk and talk. And I don't know why. I've just always been that way.
Yeah. I think it's beautiful that you've owned it and you have found your stance in your sexuality and energy. Have you ever had a moment to connect with your mom about what happened in the past?
I think there might have been a few conversations where I think I tried to let her know how badly it hurt me, but I think she knows.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that her deepest regrets in life are only regarding to her parenting and how she could have done it better.
Yeah.
And so it really was about me. I felt I just needed to come to a place of forgiveness about it.
So have you forgiven her?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
Good.
But I think what was hard is I need to learn how to let go of the shame that was inside my body. I just think that it would be really healthy to like normalize just bodies and just sex, and we should have more examples outside of pornography, because that's literally where I learned everything. And that's not a healthy place to learn anything about anything, about like relationship dynamics and the way that women are treated in porn. And like, we don't get a lot of examples of that kind of intimacy or sexuality elsewhere. And so I think I believe in embodying and normalizing that as just a part of our culture. Everyone does it. It's the same. We all shit, piss, eat, and sleep. Like, we fuck, we have sex. I think there's a lot of leaps and bounds that can be made in the sex industry to like, that would actually bleed into create healthier spaces just for people's expression and just learning. And like, kids are gonna go and look at these things, or if you don't talk to your kids about sex and you pretend like it's not happening, like they're going to discover it on their own some way or somehow. And so
or with their friends.
Exactly. And so I just think it's really important and healthy to like be comfortable with your own body as a being, and then as a parent, and then to ingrain that in your kids.
I think the biggest thing is like installing confidence in like, these are everyday habits of human beings, and it's gonna happen at some point, and we need to be comfortable, confident, and clear about what the 3 C's, about what is gonna happen in this world and how like it is normal, you know?
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you, and just finding healthy habits and being open and talking about it is the first step.
But things like this channel, which I actually do think is such a beautiful incentive, because like I said, that's how I discovered how I identified, was from a YouTube video. And I sought it out. Same, right? And it actually gave me so much peace. And bless my soul, had I ever seen like if I had found somebody else, like a person of color or like a chick like who kind of like looked like me or who I could relate to, I'd be like, whoa, like there's
someone like me out there.
There's more of us, you know, like
I'm not alone.
You know what I mean? Like it would have been so enthralling and liberating, and like wow, and like it would have empowered me as a younger girl to discover myself at an earlier age. You know, and
100%.
I think it's a really, really powerful incentive. So.
Yeah, I agree. No, but I agree. I think it's very sad that mainstream media and so much of our, now things are changing. Now things are starting to change, but in the past, all the mainstream media or YouTube channels or everything was primarily white, or the ones that did well and had the view and were ranked number 1 on the pages were white. So I completely agree with you, and I think that time is changing, and there's going to be a lot more people of color, queerness, gender fluidity out there for people to relate to, and I love that. So what is some advice that you would give to parents from your experience of what you've gone through, younger, being ashamed of the way you are?
I think honestly where that comes in is, first of all, I think the larger umbrella spectrum of that is culturally, I think that we need to take more accountability for inclusion for these things, because parents are just people too who are living off of the role models and systems that they see. And I think as parents, there's responsibility too to not only to be comfortable with your own sexuality, because I think that's part of it is parents, if your parents don't have a sexual relationship, or if they're not comfortable with sexuality, how can they be comfortable with their kids? Like,
true.
Like, if having sex in and of itself is almost sinful and shameful, you're going to, like, would you ever imagine having a daughter and then making her feel, would you ever tell her that she doesn't deserve to feel comfortable in her body? But that's what you're telling her, when, like, with little microaggressions, and also I think it's important to educate ourselves as parents too about just like gender and sex and just being more open about it. Like, I think we're getting better, but like traditionally, like even things with like buying girls certain toys versus buying boys, like my parents were good about that. Like if I wanted to play with trucks and cars, I could do that. But I think that it's just important to like have an open mind, be open with your own self. I think as people our age, do the work, do the exploration, make those mistakes so that you don't have to, so that you can help your own kids.
Even just education. I think education is huge, and just like reading books or watching all these documentaries that are coming out right now, and just educating yourself to understand and be able to empathize. Yeah, I think that's a good note. Like, empathy is a big thing, because until we understand something, it's just the other. Just be comfortable in your own body, explore that, be comfortable, and like educate yourself on these things so that you can educate your kids, so that you can even tell your kids, you can say to your children, there's different ways to be attracted to people, and that's okay, and you can figure it out for yourself. Like, you might be attracted to girls, you might be attracted to boys, you might be attracted to both, you might be asexual, you might be attracted to nobody. But as a parent, if you have that language, and we only understand things when we have language to use it, if you have that language and you can impart that language on your kids at a young age, and also by talking to them at a young age makes it feel like they can approach you about these things, I think that would just can erase many years of just like, Yes.
You know what I mean?
So 100%. I love that. So you explored polyamory.
So let's unpack that a little bit, because people have such interesting ideas of what they think polyamory is. They're like, oh, so you just fuck a lot of people? And I'm like, actually, no. Like, I believe in polyamorous belief systems, but I've never...
What is a polyamorous belief system?
So in my terms anyway, is the idea of having a relationship, a meaningful one, but having more than one. And so it's like you have lovers, you might have a primary partner, and then you might have a secondary or a third, and having multiple relationships where your love with one person doesn't detract from a separate relationship that you could also have love with another person. People think that open relationships are polyamorous. For example, if I had a partner and if we decided that we were open to sleeping with other people and just like casually having sex with other people, that's not what I would consider polyamory. That's openness. Yeah. Polyamory is a lot of work. Think about all the communication you need to go into one relationship and it's working, and then like do it over. But then everything that you have here, you have to double communicate and talk about with this other person, and then maybe there's more, you know what I mean? Like
there's boundaries you have to create.
Yeah, and check in all the time, and like it's a lot. And so why I have identified with it is because I believe in the concept that it's possible, and I think that love is just should be a little bit more of a free-flowing thing, but we have a lot of ideas about, well, if you're with me and you stay with me, it means I'm valuable, and if you like anyone else, it means I'm not valuable, so you can't like anyone else. And which I just think is, I think that as beings, we're so much more capable than that, and love is like literally the one power in the world that trumps everything. It's the one thing we don't understand. It's one thing that everyone talks about, that art is made of, that we all seek and want and desire. So why do we have to limit ourselves to thinking that I need to only love and be loved by one person forever? I think that that's making us so small.
I agree. I think polyamory is beautiful, and if it works for you, it works for you. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of trust has to come into play, and you have to be comfortable, but everybody within those parameters has to be comfortable too. And I think you're absolutely right. Lead by love. We talk about love, we express it so much, that why not live a life filled with love, and loving so many different people in this world is quite beautiful. So
Yeah.
I support that
Yeah,
for sure.
and I really believe in platonic, intimate love. Like platonic intimacy, I think, is something that could just be more culturally acceptable. Like to like touch your friends and like kiss them on the lips or on the cheek, and just do that intimacy. Because like a lot of people really deeply crave that intimacy, but it doesn't mean
it's
that
culturally shamed, so you don't feel okay doing it.
Yeah,
you feel awkward.
And then we're like, well, I have to be in a relationship in order to hug or kiss or touch them or have sex with them. And then people get into unhealthy relationships and then stay in them because they're deeply craving that deeper level of connection. And so I think it would just be healthier if people were just open to being more loving with their friends. Or I even think that like healthy conversations about friends who like want to sleep together but stay friends. I'm like, I think that's great, because that's why wouldn't she like like I've done it where like I have friends where like we're such good friends, and like some female friends of mine, we're such good friends, and we love each other so much. There's so much trust, and then all of us are very sexually like fluid with our sexuality and sensuality and attracted to women, and so why wouldn't we sleep with each other if we wanted to or felt like it? But it's never been something that is like been needed, and it's never been something that has like been damaged the relationship. Like I don't know why, but I do know why, but I'm like often invited to have threesomes with my close friends who have partners, and it's because as a person, I just love people, and I'm very respectful of people and their boundaries. And to me, sensuality and sexuality can be quite fluid. Like I don't readily sleep with a lot of people, but like my readiness for the fluidity with all that, like I'm like, yeah, I could possibly have sex with my two friends if they love each other and they love me and they're on good terms and I'm on good terms and we're all attracted to each other. It doesn't happen that often, but I'm like, yes, that is a thing that I could do and would do, you know?
Yeah. Well, I've never had that happen to me, but thank you. From your journey and your experiences that you've been through in your life, reflecting on all of that, what is one major lesson that you've learned and you live by? She got this.
Life is long, and I think that we should give ourselves the opportunity to explore the things we want to explore and be free and do that crazy thing and go to Burning Man and experiment with your sexuality and realize, nope, I'm not that, or like I don't actually want to sleep with these people, like that's fine. Like give yourself room to mess up and to be trippy and to be messy and to have that freedom. But like I value freedom so much, and I just value, because you learn so much, and life is long. Like you are going to change so much every year. Like I think that we deserve to give ourselves the time to just be present and explore things.
That. And it's the biggest thing I get from you is just, you have a huge life to live, so just be so open to any possibility that comes into your life. And it's true, it's just like, why miss out on an opportunity because you're closed off about something?
Yeah.
Love that. Ugh, that was such a great one. Wow, you really
I prepared that
one. What's some advice you would say to your younger self?
Fuck the haters, man. Like it's funny, the older I get, the more I like realize that I am who I was when I was younger, and to just like not take everything so personally. I was just so sensitive. Like if anything, if people are trying to smush you down, just take it as a compliment. It means that like something about you is so bright that they literally feel the need to make you small. And to just like own it, and like all you really need is a couple of like really good friends, and to just try to stay authentic to yourself and live to please you. Like I spent so much time when I was younger trying to please other people, anybody and everybody except for myself, and I still struggle with this. So just please yourself, love yourself, and honestly the rest will follow, and the things, your vibration will naturally attract, you know, people of a similar nature to you.
Fuck the haters. What's your favorite quote?
Heaven is this moment on earth, and hell is the burning desire for this moment to be anything different. And I was like, wow.
So when you're going through a depressing time or hardship, how do you deal with that? And how do you get yourself out of it? How do you take care of yourself? Let me just say that one more time, because when you're dealing with hardship, how do you take care of yourself?
Honestly, number one is like, have I slept enough? Have I eaten enough? I probably just need to have a bath. Like if I hit those 3 things, then I'm probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
But sleep is a huge one for me. Like I have a diagnosed mood disorder, quote unquote. Like I'm diagnosed bipolar, like whatever the fuck that means, right? Boxes. We hate them. We don't like those around here. But anyways. But I just know personally that I get really susceptible to mood things when I don't get enough sleep. So being well rested and being gentle with yourself, journaling always sets me straight because it gives me a second to like sit in with myself and reflect. So yeah, sleep, journal, food.
Journaling is huge.
Yeah.
I only just started journaling, and I find it so impactful when you just write all your thoughts
Yeah.
out, even if it don't make any sense, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Just get 'em
it
out.
just like gets it out there, and once it's out of there, then you don't need it's not in here anymore, and you can just
let it go.
Let it go.
Don't hold those thoughts
Not
in
anymore.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Let it go.
There you go. You got a Becky and Peter
special.
Nailed it. Nailed it. Ding, 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 ding.
What do you think are the next steps for inclusion in the LGBTQ plus community?
I think it needs to happen in art and culture and media and film and television. Kids really need role models too. Like they need to be like, oh, that could be me. And they look to TV for that, and they look to
100%.
film because they're looking at something that does or doesn't look like them. And it was really hard for me growing up because I saw very few roles where it was a woman who looked of a similar ethnicity. Like recently I discovered some amazing like Filipino artists, and I was just like, oh my God, I was getting so jazzed on it because I never really saw any of that growing up and had no exposure. And it gave me, even like as a 26, 27-year-old adult, more confidence with my art and with my music and with what I can create and like what I have to offer. Because I'm like, I see other chicks and other Filipino chicks who are also Canadian doing the thing and talking about their experiences. I'm like, that's something that I can relate to and that I can offer, you know?
I love that. I completely agree with you. I absolutely agree. I think it's now the time, especially for inclusion of like people of color, Black individuals on screen and television and art, and just to be portrayed in that way. Also, that will continue to spread education and make the world a more loving, open, and accepting place.
What is one last message you want to say to anybody that's watching?
Lead with love. Breathe a little bit of magic into your life. Like honestly, anything is possible.
Yeah.
I think that if you open up yourself and your heart to like believing that you can do the things you want to do and be the person you want to be, like honestly, something I really live by is I asked myself when I was younger, like what if I was in a class in a room at a party and I saw a girl and I just thought she was the coolest chick, and like what does she look like, how is she speaking to people, how does she make people feel, what is she wearing? And then I asked myself what that person looked like, and then I became that person, because the things that we love and idolize about other people are the things that we connect with the most. And like, be the person that you want to be and give yourself the freedom to change, because you're going to change so much. And like I said, life is long, like so much can happen. And everyone's so busy worrying about themselves that nobody actually cares about what you're doing and what you're not doing. So give yourself the freedom to just explore and play.
Love that. Love that. Well, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on here and sharing your story and educating us about part of your world. And I just want to let you know I love you so much. Did I get an earring? Came out.
You can kiss me.
Okay, that was amazing. First of all, I just want to say a massive thank you to Aryiel for coming on here and being so open with her story and just educating us on some of the adversity that she has had to face, helping us normalize things that happen in our day-to-day life that we don't get the chance to really open up or talk about. So thank you. And thank you guys for joining us on this adventure. I really appreciate you guys coming every week and supporting. There's a lot more stories to come, so stay tuned. A new interview will be coming next week, and I will leave it at that. Stay tuned. Ciao for now.